But the beauty of it is that there's a solution. Mental wellness. I have spoken about this not once, not twice, not thrice, especially at this time of crisis, where the global fraternity is dealing with COVID-19. Majority of us have landed to that point where we are mentally disturbed. We do not know what way forward, what next, and all that. Sometimes we just have discussions revolving around this, but we really do not take time to seek solutions. So in the next about 20 minutes or so, that's what we'll be looking at, and we get to understand whether indeed there's a solution, where the solution exists, what direction you need to take, and why it is important that you really do not have to worry. Well, the good books will always remind you that it is beyond you. And it's pretty much hard for someone to get to that point where you say, well, this is beyond me, so let it be and see what tomorrow holds. In most cases, we want to go rush and leave tomorrow and see what tomorrow has, which is pretty much hard over task. So joining me for the same is Caroline Gaiduma, who's going to take us through this session, tell us what it is that she has that is special for us this morning. She is a transformation coach. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And why mental wellness? Good to have you.
Wow, mental wellness connected to emotional wellness is really like the core of everything. Like if you're not well mentally and emotionally, what can you do?
Yeah.
You can't even wake up. I've been through depression myself, and at a certain point I couldn't even wake up. So if you can't even leave your bed, what else can you do?
Right.
You can't take care of your kids, you can't go to work, you can't even go to a place of worship. So it's really key, but it's unfortunate that people do not see it as something that's really critical. Yeah.
So where does it start? For a moment, you say you've been through depression.
Yeah.
I don't know whether in most cases people get to know or see this coming, or you just wake up and you find yourself that I am here, and then you realize that, this is not my normal self.
Yeah.
And sometimes you probably do not even have an idea of what exactly is just happening.
Most of the times people don't know that they are going down that road.
Yes.
Because we have normalized stress. We have normalized saying, I feel depressed, or I feel stressed, or it's normal, it's part of life. And so because of that, we lose our self-awareness to know where the line, we've crossed the line. And when we've crossed the line is realizing I need help. I need help externally. I need somebody to come in and help me get a new perspective because I've crossed the line where all my now thinking patterns are negative.
Right.
But people don't have that level of awareness. So what happens is that you hit a wall, and that's when you're like, oh my goodness, something is wrong.
Something is wrong.
Yeah.
I think our main focus today would be about how do you get to that default setting where you go back and say it's okay, it's never that serious, life has to move on, or life has to go on after all. But before you even get to that point, it is crucial that you know that, you are going through this.
Yes.
So I'd want to say self-diagnosing or diagnosis in the first place. I don't know which is right between this. And you'd want to know, I think I need to seek help. I think I'm not in the right state.
Yeah.
You need to speak out at some point in time.
Yeah.
But in most cases, we even find it hard to speak out because we feel like now I'll be burdening people, they will not understand and all that. So how do you get to know that, I am going through this road that really does not seem to be a road that would land me somewhere good?
You can't get there until you've been doing something called self-assessment.
Okay.
And we are in a place where because as I said, we've normalized that this is stress, life is stress, and we have this languaging around stress and depression and mental wellness that makes it seem okay to be at certain places and cut that out, or just deal with it.
Right.
Everybody else is going through, but if you've been doing self-assessment, you will know that your normal is up to this place, because you will have a way of knowing that when I get here, I normally bounce back, and this is how I bounce back. This is what I do. Maybe I go do a walk in nature. Maybe I listen to music. Maybe I dance. But if you've not been doing self-assessment, you'll just be going down the road thinking it's normal. And then we also have this weird relationship with ourselves where we see ourselves as less than when we are asking for help.
Okay.
So we don't feel as if we want to step down to go and ask for help, especially people who are helpers in society. So we get to a place where you're going down that road and nobody knows, and even you don't know. But when you hit that wall, then you're sometimes too far off. You know, so self-assessment is very important. And how do you do self-assessment? Journaling is very important, because when you're journaling, you will have some inner self-awareness and be like, this feels like it has stayed on for too long. You know, I've been journaling about this feeling for 3 days. I think I need help.
All right.
But if you've not been doing that, how would you even know what you were feeling last week? Yeah.
This where is help, because, well, true to it is that, you know, it makes you feel less of a human being when you're going through something that is a little bit ish, and you know, the stigma that is within society, that is within the home setup, the fear that comes along with that, the restrictions that, you know, you're always supposed to be perfect, and so it becomes hard for you to go and tell this person who expects you to be perfect that, you know, I am actually not perfect. There's a problem here and there, and one that you'd want to reach out to, which is, you know, I would assume someone who you do not know. You feel like they're not going to judge you, they're not going to question, and then you say, like, you know, after all, they're never going to see me again, are a little bit expensive. And in this case, then I'm talking about the counselors, the psychiatrists, you know, the psychologists that you'd want to visit.
I mean, it's, first of all, it's what you've said is, you know, you've rightfully said that we are all expected to be perfect. We have these aspirations of an ideal self, an ideal life, an ideal way of being, and we disregard who we are in this moment. And that's the first place we need to start. We need to start normalizing being human. You know, normalize all emotions, that this is part of the human experience, and we are bound to feel like this. And if I cannot get back myself to neutral or to a higher place, then there's help all around me. Now, when we talk about the charges of these people who are helping, most of the time, it's not about the money, it's about the value we attach to this help. Because how can you be able to afford a handbag of 10,000 or a weave or a wig of 100,000, and then counseling session for 3,000? It seems like a lot. So it's not about the money, it's about the value. And as I said, materialism is more, you know, we feel like we are more when we acquire more, and so those things that we are acquiring have more value to us than that which we cannot see, which is our mental and emotional well-being.
Triggers to, you know, mental instability, or so to speak. In most cases, we'd want to look at them as though, you know, the bad things that happen to you will always trigger that. Are there scenarios where even the good things, over excitement, over, you know, like you are at that point where you feel like it's peak, that can get you to having mental disorder?
Of course, because you know, between the ages of 0 to 7, you are forming a belief structure. So it's like you're building a house, and this is the structure on which this house will be formed. So from 7 years old, you're just filling in the structure, and some of these beliefs have a certain relationship with success, for example. So if, you know, like where I used to live, it was very insecure, it was very unsafe, and there were so many burglaries happening like every week. So I created a belief that being successful is unsafe because burglars are gonna come, you know. So, and I didn't know that. So I spent the rest of my life trying to pursue success, but then also always sabotaging myself. And then on top of that, always feeling as if, you know, feeling anxious whenever I am near success, or whenever something happens that triggers, you know, that feeling of abundance, I get anxious. So it could also be a trigger, good things, because of your belief structure. And your belief structure needs to be examined, because as long as it's not examined, it's running in the background, like a background app, and it's running your life, and you're creating, you have patterns, you have a kind of life you're creating without knowing how you're doing it.
Well, I've heard of these two words that would sound a little bit common, but also not in this line of, you know, ensuring that one is well mentally, and this is life reset. Would you take us through that?
Reset is like restore back to default settings. You need to understand what are our default settings before you even understand reset, because if you don't understand that, you'll be like, oh, am I resetting to poverty, because that's where I started my life at, you know. But our default setting as human beings is a place of joy and peace. Look at a child, you know, the way children are, they're just open, they're happy, they're joyful. So that's how can you reset your life at any given point to that place, because if you go back there, then you have a new perspective to life and a whole wide other choices that you can make that will take you to the next step of your life. But then because we have this idea that life is continuous, it doesn't stop, we don't feel like we can stop and start at any point. So life reset is at any point you feel like you need a start, that's the point to start.
So this is some of the people who would say need the reset aspect, or they need the reset button pressed. But then just why is it necessary after all? I mean, because one would want to say it has to be progressive. I mean, some of these people say, I'm not going back there. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to hit this one head on, and I'll make sure that I penetrate through to the other side.
Yeah, I mean, if you're experiencing a challenge, it's a challenge because of your perspective. You can't find a way around it because of where you're starting. You're looking at it from, right? So, but if you do a reset, then what happens is that you pull yourself back, get back to center, and see the situation afresh. And therefore, you have new choices to make, and therefore you have new actions to take, and that's how you find a solution. Anybody who creates a solution for any problem in society sees it a different way than everybody is. You'll see somebody saying, oh, traffic jam is a problem in Kenya. Somebody else is like, it's a huge opportunity, and they are there selling sweets for you. You see, so it's about, resetting is about saying, I've hit a rock on this issue. I need to pull back and see it from a higher perspective. That's why a reset is so important. Why?
What is the worst that can happen if I choose not to go the reset direction? Because I've had phones for a while. There are times where you're being told, restore to factory reset. I mean, sometimes you're told, well, update is here, but you choose not to press proceed. You say, I'm just going to soldier on. It is okay the way it is. Or even if it's not okay, it can get better as we proceed, or I can manage, I can deal with it. What is the worst that can happen if you decide, okay, I am at this point, and I'm going to press the reset button?
First of all, you can not get to a reset if you don't have a bigger vision of your life and saying, this is the quality of life I want, and I'm not going to compromise on it. So even if it means I have to start every morning, I'm going to start every morning until my life feels good to me. So if that's not your priority, then you will not see a need to reset. If, that same example of a phone, if you're okay with your phone delaying to bring up things, like you can wait for 2 hours before it loads a page, you're okay. But if you're like, I need this done immediately, then you will do it.
Comes along with so much fears, I'll tell you. Comes along with so much skepticism, because you're like, should I not? What is the worst that can happen? I'll take an example. You're in a toxic relationship, and you're here, you've taken strides, you probably have done a wedding, you've gotten everyone else to believe that this is the best couple, but then you are not okay deep within. You want to say over and done with it. That I would want to believe would be equated to a reset, but also the other hand, you're like, then what happened? What happens? So I'm better off in here, like better the devil than the edge you don't know, kind of approach.
Wow, so reset doesn't necessarily mean taking any action from where you are seated.
Okay.
So life for me is happening in this moment. I am nowhere else on this planet. I am here at TV47. So this is where the reset needs to happen. And how does a reset look like? A reset looks like I will take a breath, and I will first of all look at where I am. What perspectives do I hold? What am I thinking? What have I decided? What are my beliefs about my situation? And then from there, I will ask myself, what is the nearest, highest perspective to this issue? And that's where help comes in, because sometimes you're not able to find a higher perspective from where you are, because you're so deep in a hole. You just need somebody else to mirror you, so that you can see the next step in mind, as a perspective. Even before I take any action, the next best way to look at this thing is this. So from this next best way to look at it, then I can be, okay, so what's the action that I can take from this new perspective? So it could be to go get help in the place of, the example you've given of a marriage. It could be, let's go do family therapy. It could be, let me take my time off of a week and go and think. It could be, I think this is it. It could be so many things, but you cannot decide until you move to a higher perspective. And that's the real reset.
All right, and I'd want to believe that you've answered in a way the next question, but all the same I will ask it and see whether there are specific ways to approach this. Where can one go for a reset? How? When?
Wow.
Yeah.
It depends on what are you going through and how far off the road have you gone, you know? So if you find that somebody, for example, is you're on a highway and you've branched off the road 2 meters off the road, you can just come back immediately. But you've gone off 40 kilometers, maybe there's another route round that you need to find, or maybe there's a chopper that needs to come and rescue you. So it depends on how far off the road you are. So for some people, they'll say, let me just go to Karura and do a walk. As you're in Karura, you're breathing and you're realizing, oh, I'm alive. I'm grateful to be alive. There's so much more good things that are happening than this one bad thing. So for other people, it will be, let me go for a counseling session. For other people, it will be, let me put on some music. For some other people, let me go on holiday, you know. But then what really works is when you have all those combined.
Okay.
So go out somewhere serene, go get, you know, there's professional help and there's a holiday mood.
I'm almost breathing that serene place. And you know, honestly, like it does work for sure.
Yeah,
it does work. Yeah.
And I see people saying, I'm going off for this weekend, I need to reset. But then they go back, they go carrying their, you know, your mind, you're
all
still
the baggage,
carrying it.
yes.
You leave it maybe at the airport, you take a plane, go to the beach, come back. When you're going back home, you pick up your emotional baggage and go back home with it. Because you are not equipped, you don't have the tools that you need to actually reset. So you just went and enjoyed a different environment, but you didn't process stuff. You didn't change your perspective about things, which is really where the real change happens. So, but there's places that you can go that has all that. It has serenity, it has a professional, and it has that holiday feeling. Yeah.
All right. Well, these services are equally offered in a very special way.
Yeah.
Hasana.
Yeah.
Well, very important that we note that, because C can be something else to very many people.
It's actually an Armenian word meaning peace. Yeah.
For a moment, I was thinking Hacienda, so you know you cannot say Hacienda and all that, so I had to ask. So here we are. What about this institution or this space and what it offers? What is so special about it offering, especially that aspect of reset?
Yeah. So Hasana is a sanctuary. It's an oasis of peace and serenity. And the dream behind Hasana is that many people, I mean, life generally, it takes you through ups and downs. And most times, most people are not equipped to process life. And so what happens is, like, if you've had a house for 5 years, imagine a house and you've never gotten rid of anything. Okay. That house will be so, you know, crammed up and dust, so much stuff in there. Right. So even if it could be a beautiful house, there's so much in there. So we are, Hasana has come up to help people to process life, to process life in a way that pushes them forward, in a way that expands them. And we have this idea that most people do not understand that there are so many therapies available in this country to help them. They just know there's only counseling, there's only psychiatry, there's only coaching, but there are so many other therapies. So Hasana wants to connect people to whatever tools they need to process life, to reset their life, because sometimes it's not even a challenge you're going through. Sometimes it's a dream that's keeping you awake, and you need to actualize this dream, but you don't know where to start, you don't know what resources you have. So Hasana ideally is a wellness center. It's a wellness center that is focused on your mental and emotional well-being, and it's accessible to anybody going through anything. You know, whether it's marital issues and you're going through a separation, or you want a weekend to think things through, you come there. It's very serene, it's beautiful, and then there's a professional on top of that. So somebody who can help you think through stuff. If you're talking about addiction, for example, people are going through different addictions, and addictions are contextual, so the family is involved. Is anyone supporting the families to deal with an addicted person? Is the addicted person dealing with the core issue, which is probably childhood trauma? So those are the things that we support people with at Hasana.
Right, that's incredible. Good job there, so to speak. And they say music in a way is also instrumental in getting you to that point of serene. So courtesy of this segment, I think I'm going to treat us, all of us, including the viewer back at home, to some good music. We have a band that is on standby that in about 15 minutes or so will be entertaining us, will be getting us to that moment of relaxation. Otherwise, by and large, I have to say I appreciate so much, and I I think we've picked something that is very important. At this time of COVID-19,
Yeah.
we call mental illness and, you know, a shadow pandemic.
Yeah.
It is there, it is in
Yeah.
existence, we
Yeah.
have to address it.
Yeah, true.
And that's the reason why we've done that this
Yeah.
morning. Caroline Gaiduma, thank you so
Yes.
much. She is a transformation coach.
I hope they can reach us.
Please do that as we proceed, as we wind up the show.
Yeah. If you really want to find out about Hasana and how we can help you, how we can give you a life reset, you can reach us on 0723 222274 or www.hasanasanctuary.com. Yeah.
All right, HasanaSanctuary.com.
Yeah.
All right, as we hope and cross fingers that the band that is on standby via Skype is going to be able to come and give us that feel of relaxation.
Yeah.
After all,
Yeah.
it's important that we first of all get some bit of makeup tips. Otherwise, it was good having you. Thank you once again, Caroline.
Thank you so
That's where we
much.
get to wind up this one.
Awesome.
Asante.
Asante.